I'm Lena Sorensen, and the sting of that moment still feels fresh. Picture this: I'm standing in the wings, just out of sight, watching my brother, Ethan, stride confidently across the stage. The spotlights gleamed on the polished trophy in his hand, an industry award for the breathtaking landscape design that had consumed my life for the past year. He wore a triumphant smile as he accepted the honor, then leaned into the microphone, his voice echoing through the grand hall. My sister Lena provided some input, of course, but her contribution was minimal, he stated, dismissing years of my sweat and creativity with a casual flick of his wrist. The lie hung in the air, thick and suffocating, as applause erupted for his innovative blueprint. He soaked it all in, basking in the spotlight while I stood there, invisible and fuming. If you're enjoying this story already, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Hit like and subscribe to hear what happened next. The scent of freshly turned earth was my perfume, the calluses on my palms my badges of honor. I, Lena Sorensen, a landscape architect by calling and by trade, found my deepest contentment not in the hushed, manicured halls of high society, but in the vibrant chaos of a nascent garden. My hands, more often than not, were stained with soil, my fingernails forever betraying my true passion for coaxing life from barren ground. This, of course, made me an anomaly in the polished, perpetually pristine world of the Vance family, into which I had married 3 years prior when I became David Miller's wife. David, bless his kind, gentle heart, was a man of quiet integrity, but one who had been raised in the formidable shadow of his mother, Eleanor Vance, and his older brother, Ethan. He navigated their world with a grace I often admired, but a compliance that increasingly chafed against my independent spirit. For the past year, my canvas had been Eleanor's sprawling estate, a property that boasted acres of potential, but had, for decades, remained a testament to genteel neglect. When Eleanor had first approached me, her words had been laced with a peculiar blend of condescension and casual entitlement. "My dear Lena," she'd begun, her voice a soft, silken purr that always felt more like a prelude to a demand than an actual request, "the gardens are simply wild. A bit much, wouldn't you agree? And with Ethan's firm bringing in so many new high-profile clients, we simply must present an image of effortless elegance. I thought of you, of course. Your little hobby might be quite useful." She'd waved a dismissive hand towards the vast, overgrown expanse, a gesture that simultaneously acknowledged my profession while diminishing its significance. To her, it wasn't a vocation. It was a quaint pastime, a convenient way to get free labor for her ambitious social agenda, but for me, it was never just a little hobby. It was a passion, a deep-seated connection to the natural world that had defined my life since childhood. I saw not a wild, neglected space, but a sleeping giant waiting to be awakened. I spent countless hours on that estate, day after day, week after week, painstakingly transforming it. My process began with meticulous research into the native flora, the soil composition, the unique microclimates of the property. I filled sketchbooks with detailed blueprints, hand-drawn and annotated, envisioning cascading waterfalls that would mimic mountain streams, serene koi ponds reflecting the sky, and meandering flagstone pathways inviting quiet contemplation. I designed botanical displays that would bloom in a continuous riot of color throughout the seasons, ensuring a year-round tapestry of life. It was a symphony of design, engineering, and sheer physical labor. I oversaw a small, dedicated team of landscapers, my voice firm but fair, guiding them through the intricate work of laying irrigation systems, constructing retaining walls, and transplanting mature trees. My boots were perpetually caked in mud, my hands often scraped and bruised, but my spirit soared with every new bed planted, every stone meticulously placed. Eleanor, meanwhile, would make her grand appearances, floating onto the site in pristine linen suits, offering critiques that were as vague as they were unhelpful. "More vibrancy, darling, perhaps a touch more crimson near the folly for the autumn gala," she'd suggest, entirely missing the point of the subtle, harmonious color palette I had painstakingly designed for natural flow. She rarely stayed longer than 20 minutes, preferring to delegate entirely, then return to claim credit for the progress. "It's remarkable what a little vision can achieve, wouldn't you agree?" I'd overhear her telling friends on the phone, never once mentioning my name. David, when I'd try to explain, would simply sigh, "Mom just wants things to look perfect, Lena. You know how she is, all about appearances." His words, meant to soothe, often felt like silent justifications for his mother's condescension, leaving me feeling increasingly isolated in my own marriage. Ethan, David's older brother, was Eleanor's true prodigy, the golden child destined to carry the Vance name to even greater heights. He had recently taken the helm of the family's prestigious architectural firm, a move that only amplified his already considerable arrogance. His world was one of glass towers and steel beams, of high-stakes negotiations and lucrative contracts. He saw my work as a pleasant distraction, a charming decorative touch to the family's grand real estate portfolio. When he did visit the estate, it was usually to discuss future expansion plans for Aliner's property, not to admire the budding beauty of the gardens. He'd offer a perfunctory nod in my direction, a dismissive gesture of polite acknowledgement, before launching into stories of his latest corporate conquests at family dinners. Gardening Lena still playing in the dirt, he'd once quipped, a thinly veiled insult wrapped in a rhetorical question. I preferred his indifference to Aliner's condescension, but his recent public acceptance of an award for a commercial property where my preliminary landscape designs were used, without my knowledge or consent, had stung deeply. He had taken credit for what he called architectural integration, neatly sidestepping my actual contribution. The culmination of my year-long endeavor was to be Aliner's annual summer garden party, the social event of the season, a lavish affair designed to showcase the transformed estate and solidify the Vances' standing in the city's elite circles. Invitations embossed with a stylized image of a blossoming rose were sent to every influential family, every prominent socialite, and every potential investor for Ethan's firm. Aliner's excitement reached a fever pitch, a whirlwind of caterers, florists, and event planners descending upon the estate. I, however, received no such invitation. I waited, hoping it was an oversight, a mere administrative error. But as the date loomed closer and the stack of RSVPs on Aliner's desk grew taller, the cold, hard truth became undeniable. My name was not on the guest list. Finally, I confronted David. His face flushed with discomfort, his eyes darting away from mine. "Mom just feels it's going to be a very exclusive guest list, Lena," he stammered, avoiding my gaze. "She wants a certain crowd, honey. You know, high-profile clients, potential investors for Ethan's firm. She just thinks, well, she feels you're too common." The words, delivered with a hesitant apology, hit me like a physical blow. Too common? It was a cruel echo of every unspoken judgment, every subtle slight I had endured since becoming a Vance. My meticulous planning, my stained hands, my calloused fingers, all of it dismissed, reduced to nothing more than the unrefined efforts of a common woman who didn't belong in their gilded cage. The injustice burned through me, a simmering rage that threatened to consume the quiet, gentle Lena I once was. That night, after David had fallen into a restless sleep, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The garden, my masterpiece, would be unveiled to the world, but its creator would remain unseen, unheard, and unrecognized. The humiliation was a suffocating blanket, but beneath it, a seed of fierce resolve began to sprout. The next morning, the grand estate felt like a cage, its manicured lawns and vibrant flowerbeds mocking my silent fury. I watched from my studio window as caterers set up pristine white tents and florists arranged elegant centerpieces. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and the low hum of excited chatter as Alina directed the preparations with an imperious wave of her hand. Her laughter, light and carefree, carried across the lawns, a stark contrast to the heavy weight in my chest. I thought of the countless hours I had poured into every detail of that garden, the careful selection of each stone, the precise angle of the water features, the painstaking research into drought-resistant species. It was not merely a landscape. It was a living, breathing testament to my artistic vision and tireless dedication. And now it was to be showcased as Aliner's vision, a mere backdrop for her social aspirations. The memory of Ethan accepting the award for a commercial property's landscape design, where he'd barely acknowledged my initial conceptual drawings, gnawed at me. Her contribution was minimal, he'd said on stage, his voice dripping with condescension. It was a pattern, this casual appropriation of my creative efforts, a quiet erasure of my identity. This wasn't just about a garden party, it was about reclaiming my narrative, asserting my worth in a family that had consistently undervalued me. I walked to my study, the familiar scent of paper and ink calming my racing pulse. My eyes scanned the awards and certificates proudly displayed on my shelf, remnants of a past life before the Vances, when my talent was recognized and celebrated. One particular plaque caught my eye, a small, unassuming award for emerging talent in landscape architecture from a local botanical society, presented years ago. Beside it, tucked away in a small, velvet-lined box, lay a collection of business cards from various industry professionals I had met over the years. Most were fleeting contacts, exchanged at conferences or networking events. But one card in particular stood out. It was from Evelyn Reed, the esteemed editor-in-chief of Gardens and Estates, a prestigious national magazine renowned for its in-depth features on groundbreaking landscape design. I remembered Evelyn vividly from a small, regional symposium where I had presented a paper on sustainable xeriscaping. She was a woman of sharp intellect and discerning taste, her eyes missing nothing, her questions incisive and insightful. After my presentation, she had approached me, her gaze lingering on my humble portfolio. "Your work possesses a remarkable authenticity, Miss Sorensen," she had remarked, her voice low and resonant. A true artist understands the soul of the land, not just its surface aesthetics. Keep in touch. If you ever find yourself struggling to find your voice in this industry, or if you encounter undue interference, my door is always open. At the time, her words had seemed like a polite, professional courtesy. Now they felt like a lifeline, a beacon in the stormy sea of my indignation. The very idea of contacting her, of laying bare the humiliating truth of my situation, filled me with a mixture of apprehension and desperate hope. It felt like admitting defeat, exposing a vulnerability I usually kept hidden. But the alternative, continued silence and allowing my work to be usurped, was far more unbearable. My fingers trembled slightly as I picked up Evelyn's card, the embossed lettering feeling substantial and real beneath my touch. I considered the timing. The garden party was just days away, Alina's meticulously planned charade drawing ever closer. If I was going to do something, it had to be now. I took a deep breath, marshaling every ounce of courage I possessed. This wasn't about revenge in the petty sense, it was about reclamation. It was about asserting my existence as an artist and a professional, demanding the respect I had quietly earned. I dialed the number, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. It rang twice, then a crisp, professional voice answered, "Evelyn Reed's office. How may I help you?" I introduced myself, my voice surprisingly steady. "This is Lena Sorensen. I don't know if you remember me, but we met a few years ago at the—" I trailed off, suddenly uncertain if she would recall our brief encounter. "Lena Sorensen," Evelyn's voice cut in, surprisingly warm and immediate. "Of course I remember you, the young woman with the brilliant insights on native planting. Your work truly impressed me. I recall telling my associate that you were one to watch. What a pleasant surprise to hear from you. How can I assist you?" Her genuine recall and compliments bolstered my resolve. Emboldened, I launched into my story, the words tumbling out in a torrent, the year-long dedication to Alina's estate, the intricate design, the physical labor, the too common insult, the blatant exclusion from the party, and finally the overheard phone conversation where Alina claimed my work as her own. I also included Ethan's public dismissal of my contribution to the commercial project, explaining how it contributed to the feeling of my artistic identity being erased. As I spoke, a strange sense of catharsis washed over me. It felt liberating to finally voice the silent indignities I had endured for so long. Evelyn listened patiently, interjecting only with an occasional sharp "I see" or "unacceptable." When I finished, the line was silent for a long moment, and I held my breath, bracing myself for judgment or worse, dismissal. The silence on the line after my confession stretched, heavy with anticipation. I braced myself for a polite dismissal, perhaps a sympathetic but ultimately unhelpful response. Instead, Evelyn Reed's voice, when it finally came, was firm and resonant, imbued with an unexpected steeliness. "Lena," she began, her tone carrying a quiet authority, "what you've described is not only unprofessional, it's a gross ethical violation. To deny an artist credit for their work, particularly when it's been the culmination of a year-long dedication, it's despicable. And to actively diminish their contribution while accepting accolades for it, as your brother did, is outright theft of intellectual property." Her words were a balm to my raw nerves, a powerful validation I hadn't realized how desperately I craved. Finally, someone understood the depth of the betrayal. "I have been following the buzz around the Vance estate's transformation," she continued, "and I admit I was curious. Their previous landscape was, well, let's just say it lacked any discernible vision. I'd even made inquiries about featuring the renovated gardens in our autumn issue, but I was struggling to find the true creative force behind it. Now it appears I have my answer." A flicker of hope ignited within me, fragile but persistent, like a delicate seedling pushing through hardened soil. "What exactly are you proposing, Miss Reed?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, afraid to break the spell. Evelyn didn't hesitate. My initial instinct was to simply expose this deception. But Lena, a public denouncement, while satisfying in the short term, rarely achieves lasting recognition for the true talent. What you need is not just a platform for justice, but a launchpad for your career, a definitive statement of your undeniable skill. Her words resonated deeply. This wasn't about petty revenge. It was about building something meaningful, something that transcended Alina's narrow world of social climbing and Ethan's opportunistic grabs for credit. It was about defining my own future. "I have an idea," Evelyn stated, her voice brimming with a quiet determination. "The Gardens and Estates annual design competition. It's one of the most prestigious in the country, attracting top landscape architects and designers. It's a rigorous, blind-judged process where only the merit of the design truly matters. I want you to enter your design for the Vance estate, and I personally will champion your entry." My mind reeled, the competition. It was the pinnacle of our profession, something I had only dared to dream of entering much later in my career, when I felt my skills were honed to absolute perfection. The thought of submitting my work to such a scrutinizing panel with the added pressure of the Vance family's deception looming was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. But Eleanor will never allow it, I stammered, thinking of her fury if I exposed her deceit publicly. The blueprints, the photographs, they're all at the estate. Evelyn chuckled, a low, knowing sound that conveyed decades of experience navigating the treacherous waters of power and pretense. Eleanor doesn't have to allow anything. You created that design, Lena. It's your intellectual property. As for the documentation, where there's a will, there's a way. I can arrange for a discreet team to assist you in gathering the necessary evidence. We have excellent investigative journalists who specialize in ethical breaches in the creative industries, and they are masters of subtlety. And as for public recognition, imagine this. Not just a feature in our magazine, revealing the truth behind the garden, but a national platform, a spotlight on your undeniable talent. While Eleanor is basking in the reflected glory of your work at her little garden party, and Ethan is accepting accolades for a project he barely touched, the entire nation will be learning the true identity of the genius behind those designs. The audacious brilliance of her plan took my breath away. It was perfect, a karmic retribution far more powerful and long-lasting than any direct confrontation. It would hit them where it truly hurt, their meticulously constructed public image. I agreed, a surge of adrenaline coursing through me, chasing away the last vestiges of doubt. What do I need to do? I asked, my voice now steady and resolute, filled with a newfound purpose. Everything, Evelyn replied, her voice mirroring my newfound conviction. Gather every sketch, every note, every photograph you have. Document the entire process, the initial concepts, the challenges, the solutions, the final triumph. Your personal story of dedication against adversity will be incredibly compelling, Lena. And don't worry about the logistics of the competition entry. My team will handle all the administrative details, ensuring it meets every stringent requirement. Your focus should be on refining your portfolio and preparing to stand on that stage, Lena, because I have a very strong feeling you're going to win. The conversation ended, but its impact lingered, transforming my sense of despair into a renewed purpose. The seed of resentment, watered by Eleanor's disdain and Ethan's theft, had now blossomed into a formidable plan for artistic and professional vindication. It was time for the unseen architect to finally be seen. The days that followed Evelyn Reed's call were a whirlwind of clandestine activity and nervous anticipation. I moved with a newfound stealth, my senses heightened, every action carefully calculated. The Vance estate, once my sanctuary of creativity, now felt like a well-guarded fortress, and I, its unwitting infiltrator. My primary mission, to gather every piece of evidence that unequivocally linked me to the garden's design and execution. This meant retrieving original sketches, detailed plant lists, material invoices I had personally approved, progress photos documenting the transformation from overgrown wilderness to manicured masterpiece, and any correspondence with suppliers or laborers that bore my signature or unique instructions. I had kept meticulous records, a habit born from years of working as an independent landscape architect, meticulously documenting every phase of every project. Now these binders and digital files were not merely for professional archiving, they were my ammunition, my irrefutable proof. Eleanor, consumed by the final preparations for her grand garden party, was thankfully distracted. She fluttered through the estate like a hummingbird on overdrive, micromanaging the catering staff, agonizing over the placement of each crystal centerpiece, and endlessly rehearsing her carefully crafted anecdotes about her vision for the gardens. She would stand by the newly installed koi pond, gesturing dramatically, explaining to no one in particular, and here, my dear, the water features truly capture the essence of my tranquility-focused design concept. David, my husband, was equally oblivious, buried in his own corporate responsibilities and the mounting pressure from his mother to ensure every detail of the party was flawless. He'd return home exhausted, too preoccupied with Eleanor's demands to notice my own furtive movements or the focused intensity in my eyes. Ethan, my brother, was rarely at the estate, focused on his firm and his own rising star, oblivious to the fact that his prior actions of taking credit would soon contribute to his downfall. This collective distraction worked to my advantage, creating crucial windows of opportunity for my covert operations. I started with my study, meticulously organizing all my digital files, CAD drawings, 3D renderings, and time-lapse photography I had taken of the construction process. Each digital stamp, each metadata tag, screamed my authorship. Then I tackled the physical documents, binders overflowing with meticulously detailed plans, receipts for exotic plant species I had personally sourced, and correspondence with specialist contractors for the complex water features and custom stonework. There were even handwritten notes, my own idiosyncratic shorthand for specific planting arrangements and drainage solutions. Each document was a testament to my tireless effort and undeniable ownership of the design. Evelyn, true to her word, had put me in touch with a small, discreet team from her magazine's investigative unit. Led by a sharp-witted photojournalist named Alex and a meticulous researcher named Sarah, they arrived under the guise of an early feature shoot for a general lifestyle magazine, a plausible cover story given Aline's vanity and her desire for any form of public adoration. Alex, with his keen eye and sophisticated equipment, managed to capture high-resolution images of every intricate detail of the garden, focusing on unique elements that only the true designer would have conceived: the subtle, asymmetrical curve of a pathway, the layered textures of the foliage, the precise way light played off the custom-built gazebo. He even subtly included my own subtle design signatures, a specific paving pattern I favored, the precise placement of a rare specimen tree, the unique flow of the stream I had designed. Sarah, meanwhile, with her unassuming demeanor and a knack for disarming conversation, subtly interviewed various contractors and even some long-term estate staff, asking innocuous questions about the design process and the day-to-day work. These cleverly elicited confirmations of my constant presence, my direct involvement in every decision, and my hands-on approach, often contrasted with Aline's fleeting visits and vague directives. They were efficient, professional, and utterly discreet, leaving no trace of their true intentions, and their findings corroborated my own extensive documentation. The most challenging part was retrieving a specific notebook, a small, leather-bound journal I had kept during the initial design phase. It contained my very first sketches, my raw, unedited ideas, scribbled notes on inspiration, and deeply personal reflections on the emotional connection I felt to the land. It was stored in a locked drawer in my former office on the estate, a room Aline had now repurposed as a pre-party staging area, filled with racks of elegant gowns and shelves of antique vases. One evening, under the guise of checking on the lighting for the water features, a task I had, in fact, completed weeks ago, I slipped away to the old office. The air was thick with the scent of freshly pressed linens and polished silver, the echoes of Aline's incessant chattering from a nearby room making my heart hammer in my chest. My fingers fumbled with the key, a spare I had cleverly kept hidden beneath a loose floorboard in the closet. The drawer clicked open, and there it was, my journal, a tangible piece of my soul, radiating memories of creativity and determination. I snatched it, replacing it with a decoy empty notebook of similar size and appearance before anyone could notice. As I walked away, clutching the journal close, I felt a tremor of triumph. The evidence was secured, the stage was set. The pieces for my vindication were finally in place, waiting for the perfect moment to be revealed. The day of the garden party dawned, deceptively beautiful, a symphony of blooming flowers and a cloudless sky that seemed to mock the tempest brewing beneath its surface. I, Lena, found myself watching the flurry of activity from the quiet solitude of my studio, a space that felt both a sanctuary and a strategic command center. Elegant cars gleaming under the bright sun began to pull up the long, winding driveway, depositing guests in their finest attire, shimmering silks, tailored suits, and a dazzling array of jewels. Laughter and polite chatter drifted through the open windows, carried on the gentle breeze, a stark contrast to the quiet intensity of my own preparations. Aline, a vision in a bespoke floral gown of iridescent silk, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, greeted each arrival with effusive charm, her smile plastered on her face, a mask of the perfect hostess. I could practically hear her rehearsing her lines, the carefully crafted anecdotes about her passion and vision that had supposedly transformed the estate. She was already basking in the reflected glory of my creation, accepting compliments with a regal nod, blissfully unaware of the meticulously planned reveal that lay just beyond her carefully constructed facade. David, my husband, was by her side, a dutiful extension of the Vance family's hospitality. He caught my eye once through the window, offering a small, apologetic smile, a gesture that only highlighted his continued passivity. He was a good man, but utterly blind to the magnitude of his mother's deceit and his brother Ethan's calculated opportunism. Ethan, dressed in a sharp, impeccably tailored suit that seemed to shimmer with his ambition, moved through the crowd with an air of effortless confidence, his charisma drawing influential guests into his orbit. I knew he was networking, subtly leveraging the beauty of my garden to secure new clients for the family's architectural firm, weaving tales of integrated architectural planning that subtly but effectively erased my contribution as a landscape architect. He was the perfect, polished face of the Vance ambition, and in the coming days his public display of accepting an award for a design that wasn't his, an award I now knew he was due to receive for a different project that week, but which would quickly be tainted by this public revelation, would be the ultimate culmination of this grand deception. Little did he know his moment of triumph would soon be overshadowed by a karmic unraveling he never anticipated. As the afternoon wore on, the garden buzzed with 1,000 conversations. Glasses clinked, laughter rippled, and the scent of expensive canapés mingled with the sweet perfume of the blossoms. My phone buzzed with updates from Evelyn Reed's team. Alex, the photojournalist, subtly captured candid shots of Alina accepting effusive compliments for the garden, her hand waving dismissively when guests inquired about the actual designer, a clear signal that no credit was due outside her family's sphere. Sarah, the researcher, confirmed that Ethan was indeed hinting at his integral role in the garden's design, framing it as an architectural feat rather than a landscape design masterwork, subtly twisting facts to elevate his firm's contribution. Every piece of information solidified our case, tightening the net around their elaborate deception. My own role was to remain unseen for now, a phantom presence watching the unfolding charade, allowing them to dig their own reputational grave. It was a strange, almost surreal experience, watching my family celebrate my work while pretending I didn't exist. The irony was palpable, the injustice a bitter pill to swallow. Yet with each passing minute, my resolve hardened. This was not merely about personal vindication. It was about exposing a systemic pattern of intellectual dishonesty and the corrosive effect of unchecked privilege that had allowed them to take advantage of so many others, not just me. Later that evening, as the garden party reached its crescendo, bathed in the soft glow of fairy lights woven through the trees, I received the final confirmation from Evelyn. The national competition entry was complete, meticulously documented with my blueprints, sketches, and the compelling photographic evidence Alex had gathered. The accompanying article for Gardens and Estates, detailing the true story of the estate's transformation, was finalized, ready for publication. The timing was crucial. The competition results and the magazine's exposé would be released just as the buzz from Alina's garden party reached its peak, ensuring maximum impact. I imagined Alina's triumphant smile, etched with false pride, Ethan's confident posture, radiating undeserved success, and David's unwitting complicity, all of them oblivious to the coming storm. The thought sent a shiver down my spine, not of fear, but of righteous anticipation. This wasn't just about winning, it was about revealing the truth, forcing them to confront the consequences of their actions on a public stage. The curtain was about to rise on a very different kind of performance, one where the true artist would finally take center stage and the imposters would be exposed. The time for silent endurance was over. The time for the unseen architect to claim her rightful place had arrived. The weeks that followed the garden party felt like a nerve-wracking eternity. The local newspapers had carried glowing reports praising the Vance family's stunning revitalization of their historic estate, often accompanied by smiling photographs of Alina and Ethan, prominently positioned, accepting compliments. My name, of course, was conspicuously absent, a ghost in the narrative of my own creation. This public narrative, carefully crafted by the Vances, grated on my nerves, a constant reminder of their blatant deception. But I held firm, knowing that the true story was poised to erupt, timed for maximum impact. Evelyn Reed had advised patience, assuring me that the impact of the reveal would be far greater if it came as a complete surprise, stripping Alina and Ethan of any time to prepare a defense or spin control. "Let them bask in their false glory, Lena," she'd said, her voice calm and steady. "The higher they climb on stolen ladders, the harder they fall." Then came the day. It arrived with a quiet intensity, ushered in by the gentle hum of my phone. A text from Evelyn, crisp and to the point: "Check your email. The digital edition of Gardens and Estates is live, and the competition results will be announced at noon AST." My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of anticipation. I felt a strange mix of exhilaration and trepidation, as if standing on the edge of a precipice about to take the plunge into a new, uncertain future. With trembling fingers, I navigated to the magazine's website. There it was. The cover, featuring a breathtaking panoramic shot of the Vance Estate Gardens, my masterpiece. Below the stunning image in bold, elegant script was the headline, "Lena Sorensen, the visionary behind the Vance Estate's secret garden." Beneath it, a subheadline teased, "Uncovering the true architect of a masterpiece." A wave of relief so profound it almost buckled my knees washed over me. It was real. My name, finally in print, connected to my work, undeniable and unassailable. I clicked on the article, devouring every word, my eyes scanning for familiar details, for the validation I had so long been denied. Evelyn's prose was sharp, incisive, and utterly captivating. It detailed my year of dedication, my meticulous design process, the challenges overcome, and the sheer artistry involved. It didn't shy away from the human element, subtly alluding to the uncredited labor and the social exclusions I had faced, painting a poignant picture of an artist whose talent had been exploited. The article was filled with stunning, high-resolution photographs taken by Alex, showcasing every intricate detail of the garden, the precise layering of the flora, the subtle undulation of the pathways, the way sunlight dappled through the canopy of newly planted trees. Each image was a testament to my tireless effort and undeniable expertise, proving unequivocally that this was the work of a highly skilled professional, not the vision of a socialite. It was more than vindication. It was a powerful reframing of the narrative, tearing down the carefully constructed facade of the Vance family's effortless grandeur. As I finished reading, a profound sense of peace settled over me, a quiet triumph that resonated deep within my soul. The long, lonely nights of labor, the subtle barbs, the public humiliations, all of it now had a purpose, a culmination in this undeniable truth, but the biggest reveal was yet to come. At noon, the official announcement of the Gardens and Estates annual design competition winners was posted. I clicked the link, my breath held captive in my chest, a hopeful tremor running through my body. And there it was in bold, unmistakable letters gleaming on the screen. First place, Lena Sorensen, the Vance Estate Gardens. My design had not only been recognized, it had won the most prestigious award in the country, the highest honor a landscape architect could achieve. The sheer magnitude of the victory was overwhelming, almost surreal. I was Lena Sorensen, the too common landscape architect, dismissed and ignored by her in-laws, now a nationally recognized, award-winning artist. My phone began to ring, a flurry of calls from friends, former colleagues, and even journalists. The news spread like wildfire, carried on the winds of social media and breaking news alerts. I knew with absolute certainty that Alina and Ethan would soon become aware of my public triumph, and with it, their own carefully guarded secret would be irrevocably exposed. The silence I had endured for so long was about to be replaced by an undeniable roar of recognition, and the Vance family, caught in the crosshairs of their own deception, would have nowhere left to hide. The quiet whispers of their social circle would soon become a cacophony of questions and accusations. The fallout from the Gardens and Estates exposé and my national competition win was swift and devastating for the Vance family and utterly transformative for me. The phone at the estate began ringing incessantly, not with congratulatory calls for Alina, but with frantic inquiries from socialites, business associates, and even former clients of Ethan's firm, all seeking clarification and increasingly demanding answers. The polished veneer of the Vance family's reputation, so meticulously crafted over generations, began to crack under the relentless pressure of public scrutiny. Alina, initially dismissive, quickly descended into a state of bewildered rage. I heard her voice, sharp and high-pitched, echoing through the halls of the estate as she screamed into the phone, attempting to discredit the magazine, to dismiss me as a disgruntled employee, a bitter opportunist. "It's libelous, scandalous. Lena is nothing more than a glorified gardener," she'd shriek, but it was too late. The evidence, the photographs, the detailed article, and the undeniable expertise showcased in my winning design were irrefutable. Her carefully constructed facade of effortless elegance crumbled, revealing the petty, insecure woman beneath. Ethan, my brother, who had just been about to accept an unrelated industry award himself, found his moment of triumph hijacked by my public recognition. News of my competition win and the accompanying exposé spread like wildfire through industry circles. The award ceremony, which was supposed to be his shining moment, a further testament to his rising star, became a humiliating backdrop against which his past dishonesty was whispered and amplified. His carefully cultivated image as a visionary leader began to fray, replaced by uncomfortable questions about his integrity and the ethical practices of his family's firm. The incident with the commercial property, where he had taken credit for my preliminary designs, resurfaced, adding another layer of scandal. Clients started to quietly pull out of deals, hesitant to associate with a company embroiled in such a public scandal. He received frantic calls, emails, and even official inquiries. The backlash was swift and severe, a karmic retribution for his complacent acceptance of Alina's deceit and his own casual dismissal of my talent. He eventually had to step down from accepting that particular award, citing unforeseen family circumstances and personal matters, a vague excuse that fooled no one, least of all the industry insiders who now saw through the Vance family's carefully constructed facade. David, my husband, was caught in the agonizing middle. He was shocked, then deeply ashamed. The initial anger and confusion he felt at my betrayal quickly morphed into a profound realization of his own complicity in his family's toxic dynamics. He confronted Alina and Ethan, not with his usual gentle persuasion, but with a new, quiet forcefulness I had rarely seen. He confessed to me that he had no idea of the extent of Alina's manipulation or Ethan's casual appropriation of my work. He pleaded with me to make it stop, to fix things with his family, but I refused. This isn't about revenge, David, I explained, my voice calm but firm, holding his gaze steadily. This is about truth. It's about recognizing that what they did was wrong and allowing me to finally receive the credit I deserve. It's about standing up for myself and for every artist whose work is stolen or diminished. He eventually understood, albeit painfully. Our marriage, which had been strained by his passivity and my silent resentment, began a slow, arduous process of healing, built on a new foundation of honesty, mutual respect, and his newfound willingness to stand by me, even against his family. It forced him to confront the manipulative dynamics within his own family and make a difficult but necessary choice about where his true loyalties lay. The most profound impact, however, was on me. Suddenly, I was Lena Sorensen, the award-winning landscape architect, sought after for my unique vision and uncompromising integrity. Job offers poured in from prestigious estates, renowned botanical gardens, and even urban planning initiatives looking for innovative, ethical design. My phone buzzed constantly with interview requests from national publications and television shows eager to feature the story behind the Vance Estate Gardens. I established my own independent firm, Sorensen Landscapes, and was able to hire a team of talented, ethical designers, creating a supportive environment where creativity and credit were never compromised. The too common girl who had been dismissed and overlooked by her in-laws was now a recognized leader in her field, respected for her artistry, her resilience, and her unwavering commitment to authenticity. The experience had been painful, transformative, and ultimately deeply empowering. It forced me to find my voice, to stand firm in my worth, and to build a future defined by my own terms, not by the narrow expectations of others. The Vances might have sought to erase me, but in doing so, they had inadvertently forged the very artist they feared, an artist who would no longer be unseen. Has someone in your family ever betrayed your trust in a way that forced you to reevaluate your entire relationship? How did you navigate that difficult terrain? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe if this resonated with you and share with someone who might need to hear that setting boundaries with family is not only okay, but sometimes necessary for everyone's healing. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that even the most painful experiences can lead to unexpected growth when we face them with courage and honesty.